and thank you for joining me today on Loyal World Info. Another day of the global spinning, another day of global news to digest. I offer a sane, rational voice for an insane, rational time. I will be your host, but first, let me share a little bit about me. I look forward to waking up to the international news like a child opening a Christmas present. I never know how I will act or activities I will do until after I unwrap my present. In the news case, what will I learn? What will it cause me to think about? What will I reflect back on? And what will I share with others? Stay with me and let's open presents together. Now, let's get into today's topics. Okay, the topics of the day for August 11th, 2020 are: a forcibly discharged soldier files a lawsuit, a national mourning for Lê Khả Phiêu, Jimmy K investigation over 100 million Hong Kong dollars funding of online group, Mount Sinabung Erupts in India, and an ocean planet discovered. 3 mutant coronavirus strands found, and illegal Ivory wildlife trade crushed. And lastly, 20,000 paper birds help fund convid-19 units in Belgium hospital. Now stay with me and let's get into the stories. Okay, our first story of the day takes us to South Korea. And I actually covered this story when this particular soldier went out without telling anybody, and he got a sex change and he came back while under service. And I will post a link above where you can see the article of a few months ago. And now, today, the forcibly discharged transgender soldier files lawsuit against the Army decision. So, a former South Korean soldier who was forcibly discharged after a sex reassignment surgery on Tuesday filed an administrative suit against the Army decision, saying it was unconstitutional. Bayu Hee-soo, 22, who had the rank of a staff sergeant, underwent the operation in Thailand last year and expressed desire to serve in the female corps. The Army, however, kicked her out in January, citing the Military Personnel Management Act. It said the case remains of being unable to continue service due to mental and physical disabilities. It officially dismissed Bayu's petition in July. Bayu had a supporting civil group announced it had launched a formal legal battle during the press conference in Seoul. The group argued that there were no grounds for Bayu to quit her military service under current legislation. South Korean's constitution does not allow any type of discrimination, such as depriving anybody of the public status due to personal identity, he said. Bayu has lodged the complaint with the Daejeon District Court City, located, outside of Seoul. It's a big city. And so they said the Open Society Foundation is an independent civil support network launched by the well-known investor George Soros. Oh, our Soros. Isn't that the guy in EU that they say is trying to promote globalism and whatnot? Guess what? He's promoting transgender rights and threw its weight behind it. So Kimi Buro lawsuit Brew said that the case, whether it is right to construct a sex reassignment operation as a physical disability. Now, I'm not for or against this, but Korea has a law where all men must go in. And so this guy, he may or may not win, or girl in this case now, but what if his lawsuit, he wins, but now they say all women have to sign up and do duty time because he proved that woman can do it. So sometimes people have this selfish desire just, I want to break the rules. I want to bend the rules, and therefore I want the whole society to change their lifestyle or conditions for me. Another classic example of this in South Korea was there was a woman who was in a car accident and she was permanently disabled. And she had a job, and so she wanted, of course, the lifetime benefits from the person who had hurt her in the accident. And in Korea, you normally would retire at 60. Well, she said, I was well enough, I could work till 65. And the judge actually sided with her, even though the retirement was 60. So because she did that, all the workers now have to work until they're 65 versus retiring at 60. So that is an example where I think this person could conflict with society, and he should have gotten approval to do what he did. You really should look for my other article on this guy. I'll post the link up above. And give me your comments. Do you think he should be in his lawsuit? And what do you think about George Soros funding this? Trying, an international non-Korean trying to dictate politics in your country. Like, comment, subscribe. Okay, we're moving on to our second article of the day. Apple Daily founder Jimmy Lai and others arrested in connection with ongoing investigations over the Hong Kong $1 million funding online group, sources said. So yesterday, I did put an article how he was one of the richest people and black sheep in Hong Kong that spoke against Beijing, and they arrested him finally, and he was content with it. So today, I want to read a little bit and then give you my thoughts on this. Apple Daily funder Jimmy Lee was arrested under the national security law as part of the investigation into the online group that called for foreign countries to sanction Hong Kong and received more than 1 million Hong Kong or 129,000 US from overseas bank accounts, and the Post had learned. Officers from the force's newly established National Security Unit arrested the media mogul, one of his sons, the newspaper's senior executives, and 3 activists in the high-profile police operation on Monday morning. Forest insiders said the police were punishing the 6 activists they said took place after the enactment of the law on June 30th. They said that the law was not being used retroactively. Lee, his 39-year-old son, Ian Yon, and this other guy, the chief operating officer and chief financial officer, and the newspaper parent company were arrested. Okay, so they arrested these people. Now, keep in mind, this is from a Hong Kong newspaper, and Hong Kong is under China's jurisdiction now. China is basically trying to wipe away all the freedoms of the Hong Kong people. So what do they call that in America when, like, we see this in America even like right now in the it's not Boston, but the riots in Portland riots, in the Minneapolis riots, Chicago riots, where they'll show you like a small clip of a video and they'll try to get your sympathy, but they won't show you that the guy, say, ran his car through the store to break the window to break in, but they'll show you the cops arresting him. I think that word is dox. So is China trying to dox people and try to trick the viewers to try to get sympathy for the Chinese government while breaking every person that stands up for their own freedoms, rights, and whatnot? Because that is why I thought the story was interesting, is the media or the government trying to force its will and trying to get the citizens on its side. Now, keeping that in mind, have you had any personal experience, whether it's your company, your personal life, your friends, or whatnot, where people have tried to use social media or real life things to dox you or slander you? And how did you deal with that? And how did it affect you? Please leave your comments below on that. I would love to hear. Like, comment, and subscribe. All right. So this next story comes from Vietnam. the national mourning for former party General Secretary Lê Khả Phiêu. And this is interesting because it hit the news last night, and I'm in Vietnam currently, and my wife and many Vietnamese around me, they actually stopped what they were doing and paid respects to this person. So, because it was on the news. So it drew interest to me to want to share with you. So this guy here, and I noticed his dates too. So former General Secretary, Communist Party of Lê Phiêu passed away at 2:52 a.m. on August 7th, and his funeral will be held as a national mourning according to a special commencement issued on Monday. The committee was released by the Communist Party of Vietnam's General Committee, the National Assembly, President of the Government of Vietnam. Senior Lieutenant General Lê Khả was born on December 27, 1931 in Thao Co Province, Dong Son District. And that's nice. So he was born long before the Vietnam War. He resided on He held a senior position in the Army military career that spanned more than 40 years. Span means ran through. Yeah, including Director of General Political Department of the People's Army of Vietnam. In 1991, he became a member of the party Central Committee and was elected into the sacrament for the following year. He was the General Secretary of the party Central Committee from December 1997 to 2001. Under his leadership, the Vietnamese people, the Army, and the Communist Party made great strides in the country's renewal, industrialization, modernization, national construction, and defense. After a period of illness, he passed away on August 7th. That's great. He passed away is a great loss to the party, they said. And Montory, comrade of the committee, the Communist Party, the present government, said about the funeral. Now, anyway, the reason I wanted to bring this up is, while I've lived overseas, I have had high political figures pass away, and I've got to see. In this case, it was like 2010, 2011. I was working at a high school, and within 6 months, they had an ex-Korean president named Roh Min-ha, and his wife embezzled money. And so he just jumped off of a mountain and killed himself in shame. And it's kind of funny. So, and nobody cared that their ex-president died, and I was in shock that a president or country would even care about what somebody did. So, in America, we have that all the time. But then, shockingly, like a month or two later, a different president, former president, died. And I don't remember his name, but he was a farmer, and I guess the whole country loved him. He died of natural causes. And they literally filled the biggest stadiums in Seoul, just packed, and people were bowing, and they were giving the respects, and they were doing everything for this particular president. So it was interesting how they held one president really high and the other one really low. But I did like seeing them come together. And that's exactly what Vietnam did when this guy passed away last night. So in your country, has anybody ever passed away that brought the people together in mourning? And what traditions or customs do you do when somebody passes? In this case, they're going to lower the staffs to half staff for the Vietnam. But what about your country? Please like, comment, subscribe. I really want to know about your culture. Okay, moving on. I actually came across two stories about nature and our universe that I thought were pretty interesting. The first one is about outer space. A dwarf planet, Sirius, is an ocean world, a study finds. So Sirius is the largest object in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, and has its own gravity. Okay, so the dwarf planet Sirius, long believed to be a barren space rock, is an ocean world with reservoirs of sea water beneath its surface. the results of a major exploration mission showed on Monday. Sirius is the largest object in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and has its own gravity, enabling the NASA Dawn spacecraft to capture high-resolution images on its surface. Now the team of scientists from the United States and Europe have analyzed the images relying from the orbiter captured around 35 kilometers from the asteroid. They focused on the 20-million-year-old October crater and determined that there is an extensive reservoir of brim beneath the surface. Several studies published on Monday in the Journals of Natural Astronomy, the National Geocentric, and the Nature communities should also shed further light on the dwarf planet, which was discovered by whatever. Okay, so basically this one went on that they say it's an ocean world as it's like a moon. So what do you think? Do you think that they say there's water under the ocean, and therefore they're going to make a trip to visit it. Do you have any interest in space? And do you find that, not ironic, but do you find that cool that there might actually be life on this planet? Because they also say that in the article. And would you like to visit a place like that? Now, I'm going to move on to one more article of the day. That Indonesia's Mount Siberg erupts, sending column of ash in the sky. So Indonesia's Mount Siberg erupted on Monday, sending a column of volcanic ash as high as 5,000 meters into the atmosphere and despawning the ash of nearby villages. The volcano, which is located in Samarata Island, began its eruption on Saturday, erupting violently again on Monday, emitting a thunderous noise and turning the sky dark. Ash accumulated 2 inches thick in surrounding villages which have already been abandoned. No fatalities or injuries were reported. Now, the reason that I found this interesting, one, it's kind of cool whenever there is a volcano, and you can look for the link in this video to see the ash. But I thought this was interesting because a few years ago, I remember there was some big volcanoes erupting around Europe, and they closed all of the airports down for like 2 days to a week because of all the volcanic ash, and they were afraid to fly through it for either electrical damage or just collision problems. So, do you have any landmarks around you, whether they're volcanoes or whatnot? And how do you deal with your own evacuation emergencies? Please like, comment, subscribe. I would like to know on how you deal with that kind of stuff. Okay, moving on to our next story. This comes from South Korea. 3 mutant coronavirus strands found in recent arrivals. So I thought this was interesting because we're not talking about the normal strand of the virus as it's mutated. So let's read the story. Three mutated strains of coronavirus that have never been reported before have been found in recent arrivals from overseas, the health authorities said. Scientists have sequenced the virus genomes of 776 infected patients. Some 179 were carried by arrivals from abroad. Of the 3 mustard strains, 2 were found in the arrivals from Pakistan and another from Uzbekistan. We reported the new strains to the World Health Organization and have since been conducting follow-up analysis. A spokesperson for the Korea Census of Disease Control and Prevention said, they don't seem to be either European or Asian strains. Small skeletal groups infections that have occurred mainly through the churches or nursing homes continue in the capital area, including Mourning Market in downtown Seoul, which has been visited by some 300,000 people every day. 7 merchants in the market tested positive for the virus on Sunday, and one more on Monday. KDC Chief Zhong said that the country now faces 4 serious risk factors. Water and food-borne diseases are often occur after floods. Group infections caused by religious gatherings and door-to-door sales activities. Infections in crowded enclosures, places like bars and clubs, and infections from arrivals from the high-risk abroad. Now that's kind of interesting because, I thought about, they said door-to-door sales. So just imagine like you have a little girl and you're going, knocking on doors for, hi, will you buy some Girl Scout cookies? Or since we're at election time, hi, would you like to register to vote? How many hands has that person touched? How many people did he talk face to face to that had breathed on him? Now he's carrying that virus door to door to door and getting all of you sick in the process. They said in the old days that the priests and pastors were visiting people that were dying or had sickness, but they themselves were carrying the disease. So this is kind of similar. But more importantly, why this story hit me is, even if they make a vaccine or whatever, what do you think about there being new strands of the virus? And do you think one vaccine will solve everything? Please like, comment, subscribe. Give your thoughts below about how the virus is affecting you. Okay, so this next story comes from Thailand. 18 million worth of ivory to be destroyed. National parks launched a new center to combat illegal wildlife trade. So in Singapore, the national park boards will be crushing 18 million worth of illegal ivory, weighing around 9 tons on Tuesday, April 11th. This will be the largest haul destroyed globally since 9.5 tons of ivory were crushed in Malaysia in 2016. According to the Worldwide Fund of National Wildlife, trafficking is the world's 4th largest illegal trade after drugs, human trafficking, and counterfeiting. Wow, just learned something new. What are the top 4 illegal trades? Southeast Asia is the hotbed for this trade, with Singapore serving as the major transit hub for illegal items. So what items are illegally traded in your country? Some people will say humans, some will say marijuana, I don't know. That's why I've asked you. Singapore is Singaporean of the Conservation International Trade and Endangered Species of the Wildlife Foundation. The ivory destroyed on Tuesday comes from various sources and was seized over the years, including 8.8 tons coming from around 300 elephants. Wow, 4 elephants. That was confiscated after a check from a container on the way from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Vietnam in the last year. Other sources include the abandoned check-in luggage en route to Cambodia, Laos via Singapore. Now, here's my question. So what does your country, this is why I brought up today, what does your country do to protect wildlife and so whether they're elephants or like if you're from Australia, they have the koalas and the kangaroos. And every country has certain wildlife that they want to protect. So what do you do to protect your animals or wildlife, and what punishments are enforced? And what do you think they should do with these people they caught? I'd like to know your position on that. Please like, comment, subscribe. I kind of feel bad for all the animals killed, but sadly, it's really hard to track everything. Okay, moving on to our last article of the day. 20,000 paper birds help fund convoyed 19 units at the Belgium hospital. So paper birds, by the way, are kind of like the origami. And so let's see what they did here. A flock of 20,000 multicolored origami birds has been installed at the cathedral in Brussels, Belgium, as part of the fundraising artwork that has been paid for 2 Convoy 19 units at the local hospital. So first off, I think it's really nice that they use this as a way to help pay for the medical staff and get the community involved. Suspended from the ceiling of the medieval cathedral in St. Michael and St. Gaudita by thin wires, the paper creations have come from as far as Hong Kong, New York, and Tokyo. After Beijing designer Charles Constant asked people to send in homemade birds or deposit them in boxes in 160 shops around Brussels. Each bird was matched by a donation from the companies, including French energy firms, and so the people donated it. It had a very serious I had a very serious heart surgery, and I was well taken care of by this hospital. It's why I wanted to help them, this guy said. Kaizen also organized an art auction which raised a further 300,000 euros for the hospital, which he said would support its medical research, including into the side effects of the potential COVID-19 treatments. So this is interesting. So they did this at a church. Now, even in America, most churches are closed due to too many people gather. They might get sick, even though that's BS, but whatever. But the churches could do fundraisers like this, whether it's origami or they could hang paper airplanes or whatever. So the point is that I feel that the priests or pastors can still reach out and get their community involved and keep families strong in some way. So that is why this story stood out to me. How about yourself? What is your community doing to either volunteer or keep spirits high or become united to fight against the virus? Please like, comment, leave your and subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. Well, that will conclude Loyal World News. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Feel free to like, subscribe, or drop a comment below. If you're on the go, listen to my podcast with the link provided in the description. I will see you tomorrow to share more world news.